Hello, great people. The Senate President Godswill Akpabio, in what could be considered a feudal slip, referred to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in past tense, which means that he declared Bola Ahmed Tinubu dead in error. In a moment, I'll leave you to watch the video of what happened during plenary when the Senate President Godswill Akpabio referred to Bola Ahmed Tinubu in past tense as he was addressing his colleagues as regards the burial of Muhammadu Buhari of concern. This is not the first time that a high-profile government official is referring to Bola Ahmed Tinubu in past tense. Just few days ago, the governor of Imo State and chairman of APC Governors Forum, Hope Uzodinma, also declared Bola Ahmed Tinubu dead in error. Is there something for Bola Ahmed Tinubu to worry about? And what are the things that we can point out to in all this feudal sleep that is happening sequentially? We will watch the two videos because I will be playing you that of Hope Uzodinma as well. Then we'll be dissecting a lot of issues, and I would advise you not to miss my analysis in that regard. But first, let us go and watch the feudal sleep of the Senate President Godswill Akpabio. Then we'll come back for some great discussion. Let's watch it.
And the whole country is very proud of what this administration has done in the way and manner President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was honored and was buried. And you can see, even from President Buhari's President Buhari was honored and buried. And distinguished Senator Nengi, you also observed that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will not be forgotten for what he did during the burial ceremonies of President Muhammadu Buhari. So, in the Senate, we are also determined to ensure that in our books, the record says that we also had this valedictory, despite all said and done.
There you have it. You just watch the feudal sleep of the Senate President Godswill Akpabio when he declared that Nigerians are impressed with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's burial. And you can see in that particular video that it took him time before he could realize that he had made a mistake. Again, is there something for Bola Ahmed Tinubu to be worried about? Because this is not the first time that Nigeria will be losing one of its leaders. And I will be giving you two examples and what happened thereafter. And we will be deciding whether Tinubu has something to be concerned about or not. But first, let us watch the second video, which is that of the governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodinma, where he made the similar mistake just days ago. Let's watch the video, then we come back for some great discussion. Let's watch it.
May the soul of the former president, President Bola, President Muhammadu Buhari, and the souls of all the faithful departed through the mercy of God rest in peace.
There you have it. You just watch the video of the governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodinma. So this is the second time that a high-profile government official will be making such error. First is Hope Uzodinma. Now it is the number 3 citizen, the Senate President Godswill Akpabio. What can we point to in all of this? Well, I can tell you from my lens as a political scientist that, and as somebody that believes in God, that this is a bad omen. This is one very bad omen, and Bola Ahmed Tinubu needs to be very, very careful. He needs to kind of like look inward. He needs to kind of like make some adjustment in terms of how he rules Nigeria, and of course spiritually he needs to do some atonement as well, because this is apparently a bad omen. This is not the first time that Nigeria will lose a former president, and the president in office at the time, people were not referring to them in past tense. And I will give you two examples in that regard. When the former president Yaradua, when he died in office, that one was even in office. He is a sitting president and he died, and Goodluck Jonathan took over. You will recall that when Goodluck Jonathan took over, people weren't referring to Goodluck Jonathan in past tense as we are witnessing now. People weren't saying, oh, late. People weren't kind of like mixing Yaradua's burial with that of Jonathan, who happens to be alive and a sitting president. And that is why I've said that this is a bad omen, because this is not the first time that Nigeria will be witnessing the death of a former president. Even this is not the first time Nigeria will be witnessing the death of a former president. Even when there was a sitting president and he died in office, this kind of thing wasn't happening repeatedly. And the second example was when Sani Abacha, when he died in office, when Sani Abacha died and Abdul Salami took over. When Abacha died, people weren't referring to Abdul Salami in past tense. Abdul Salami Abubakar had his reign. People weren't committing errors and blunders left and right, so much so that they were referring to him in past tense. That didn't happen. So that's why I said this is a bad omen. Anyhow you want to look at it, and Bola Ahmed Tinubu needs to be very careful. The first one by Uzodinma, if it's an error. The second one, if it's an error. Well, if the third one should happen, God knows what can follow. And as they used to say, the voice of man sometimes could be the voice of God. And could this be a warning for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu? And that's why I said this is a bad omen. If people are maybe intentionally or by error referring to a living human being in the past tense, definitely that person needs to check himself. And that is why the family of Bola Ahmed Tinubu need to, as quickly as possible, begin to make atonement and make sure that he is on the right path with God and mankind. And as they say, the voice of man is the voice of God, and that's why Tinubu needs to pray. And some people, again, just as it happened during the death of Uzodinma, are saying that out of the abundance of the mind, the heart speaks. Well, for me, I believe that that shouldn't be the case, because if there's any abundance in Akpabio's mind, just as I said during that of Uzodinma, it will be because he will be one of the beneficiaries of Tinubu's death, because Akpabio is somebody that is also well positioned as well. And if anything happens to Bola Ahmed Tinubu today, Akpabio will be one of the people that want to struggle for the APC ticket. That, it is still the turn of the South. So in 2027, Akpabio being the number 3 is also strategically favored, just as Uzodinma, who happens to be the chairman of the APC Governors Forum. So that means that he is the governors of APC. So another thing that we need to consider is that why is it people that are strategic to earning Tinubu ticket, that are strategic to kind of like replacing of continuing the southern tenure in 2027, that are making this kind of mistake? People that will not gain from Tinubu's death are not making this kind of mistake. So is there a coincidence in all of this, or it is just an unintentional act? Another thing that we must not fail to consider is the man Bola Ahmed Tinubu himself. You see, all this error that is happening, I will tell Bola Ahmed Tinubu that rule with conscience. Rule Nigeria with conscience, because people are reminding you of your death, and whether you like it or not, death is the end of every man. And it should, as a matter of urgency, begin to think that, well, his name is already in the history books of Nigeria, because there's no way you will write the history of Nigeria, even if it takes 1,000,000 years for the war to come to an end. There's no way you will write the history of Nigeria when it comes to May 29, 2023, till this present moment, and till when God tarries in his coming. And as much as God permits Bola Ahmed Tinubu to live till 2027, if he's able to win a re-election, he will continue. If you look at that period, there's no way you can remove the name Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So he's already part of Nigeria's history. His name is engraved in the history of Nigeria. But beyond that, he needs to think that if he dies today, as Akpabio has declared it again, if he dies today, what will people remember him for? Because whether he likes it or not, death is the end of every man. So if Bola Ahmed Tinubu, if you die today, he should also note that everyone will move on. Everybody will move on. Look at Buhari now. People cried, people wailed, people people screamed, but then everybody is moving on at this point in time. But what people will remember him for is his legacy, whether good or bad. His legacy will live on even when he is dead. So legacy is something that doesn't die quickly. So Tinubu needs to be considering that at that point, at this point in time. And what makes it worse is that Tinubu is a Muslim. And I have asserted before that if you are a Muslim, it is so worse that you can be a living being, you can be a dead person, and you can be a buried corpse on the same day. Because if you are a Muslim, if you died in the early hours of a day, that means that that particular day that you died, you spent some hours of that day or some minutes of that day as a living being. If you died in the earliest hours of a day, that means that that particular day you have become a dead person. And that particular day as well, they will bury you according to Islamic rites. So that means that in one single day, If you are a Muslim, you can be a living being, you can be a dead person, and you can be a buried corpse in one day. So that is why people need to be very careful what they do with power and what they do with the people that they are ruling over. These are things that, whether we like it or not, nobody can rule it out. I don't wish Bola Ahmed Tinubu dead. How long he will live is in God's hands, and I wish him long life. He's already a prosperous man from anyhow you look at it. I wish him long life, but then the truth must be said that he needs to always remember that, like power, life itself is transcend. And right now, if you look at it very carefully, there is no kind of meaningful legacy that Tinubu can be remembered for. To my mind, there's no meaningful legacy that it can be remembered for, in the sense that since he became the president, it has been unprecedented monumental hardship. Poverty in the country have increased to an unprecedented level. There have been hopelessness that have been ravaging the land, and there have been unimaginable destitution that's never witnessed before in the history of Nigeria. And that is why I am kind of like appealing to the president that begin to look at your legacy, so that we won't have a situation whereby, if by mistake or if God wish that he calls you home, people will now be dancing and rejoicing, as some people were doing during when the death of Muhammadu Buhari was announced. And you should always remember that no king reigns forever. So remember your last breath and rule Nigeria with the fear of God. I wish you long life, Mr. President. It's been an interesting time with you. Subscribe, turn on your notification button, catch up with my past video. See you in my next video. I love you all sincerely.